welcome to this month's Q&A. So we've got a lot of great questions from you this month. Keep them coming in, and I'm going to do my best to answer them all. First question comes to us from Natasha. How do I deal with a client that wants to see or have all the images and in RAW format? First and foremost, we don't give RAW files away under any circumstances. In fact, throughout my career, I've really only been asked for them once or twice. And it's usually from a graphic artist. And I get it, I know why they want it, but I am not willing to give that away to them. So you have to be okay saying no. Look, I get it. We live in this world where the client's always right, and we want great customer service. But great customer service doesn't mean we drop our pants every time they ask for something. If you don't offer it, you don't offer it. Can you imagine going into a Long John Silver's where they only sell fried fish and asking for a steak? They just don't offer it. And so you have to be okay saying no to your clients sometimes. Stop freaking out about it. And it doesn't matter what level you're in or what they're asking for. If you don't sell it, you don't sell it. And it's that simple. So don't even worry about putting a price on it, because then it just comes across the wrong way. So it's not like on my price list I have, RAW files, $3 million. It's not even there because it's not for sale. Second part of your question, how do I deal with clients who want to see all the images? That's not even an option. Our clients understand that while I may shoot 3, 4, 5,000 images from an event, that doesn't mean you're going to see all my mistakes. And I tell that to the client. If they're like, well, were there any other pictures? What are you looking for? Oh, well, I thought I saw you taking a picture of my grandmother, something like that. You know what? Let me look through them. I gave you everything I have that's usable, but let me double check. Well, can we just get them all? Unfortunately, I cannot give you all my mistakes on a CD so that those are out there in public. I'm just not willing to do that. Most of the time, my clients get it. Now, from a wedding perspective, I'm delivering almost 1,500 images for them. If 30% of your images or higher aren't good enough for your client, then there's something else at root there. So just keep that in mind. Next question comes to us from Rebecca. When do you get to a point where you know you're still learning and will be for years, but are ready to pursue your photography professionally full time? How do you define your signature style in images? How do you educate your clients to recognize it? Great question, Rebecca. So let's talk a little bit. Let's break this down. How do you know when it's time for you to pursue your career professionally? I don't think you ever know. I think back to when I punched out, I was scared to death. There's still times in my career now where I'm still scared because I've got bills to pay, I've got staffing, I've got computers, equipment to buy. And so I don't think that fear ever really goes away. In fact, I would make the argument that if that fear goes away, you've probably lost your edge. So that fear is probably a really good thing for you, but you cannot be afraid. If this is your dream and this is what you want to do, instead of worrying about being afraid, worry about not chasing what you love, okay? Be more afraid of not doing what you love than of the uncertainty of it, if that makes any sense. And so you've got to be willing to chase your dream, take that leap, and not just leap blindly, of course, that's not what I'm suggesting, but put your top 10 things together that you think have to happen before you punch. And if you look at that list and you go, okay, in order for me to punch, I've got to have this equipment, I've got to have this much in savings to carry myself for 4 months if I don't make anything for 4 months. I've got to have this many weddings booked. If you start putting that checklist together, it'll become much easier for you to know, here's the time to punch out. How do you define your signature style of images internally? I don't have an answer for that. It's through trial and error. That's the best I can tell you. We are still defining and evolving our signature image internally. It changes. Every year, I pride myself on trying to do something differently, looking at what's going on in Hollywood, looking at what's going on in the commercial world, and trying to find a way to integrate that into my workflow system. So the short answer there is trial and error. Get out there, try it, do it. And then how do you educate your clients to recognize it? You don't. They either see it or they don't. You're not educating them to recognize it. And so you want clients who look at it and immediately know, that's for me, I want that. That's your client. So they'll find you versus you trying to find them. Again, hopefully that makes sense. All right, this question comes to us from Ambrosia. How do you help people get over the sticker shock once you've differentiated yourself with your work, products, marketing, and service? I'm not sure that ever happens either. The reason I'm smiling is because there's some bridal shows we do where I will have brides walk into my booth, look at all my work, and then hand me my price sheet back. Even in our local market, whether it's seniors or families, I will have people tell me, well, I heard you're really expensive. And so you have to understand that that is the nature of the beast. And it comes back to value. They either value the product or service you're putting in front of them or they don't. It is not your job to sit there and try and convince them, because then it becomes very heavy-handed. So look for your client and understand that your client is going to find you. All right, this question comes to us from Joe. What do you suggest for lighting during the grand exit for the bride and groom? Those types of things normally happen at night. Yes, they do. And Joe, you have to get fast glass. When I'm in those situations where I'm outside to a sparkler exit or something like that, I am not pulling out flash or anything of the sorts, man. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. It gets that flashlight, spotlight look, and it's not what I want. It's not the mood, so to speak. You've got to get some fast glass. So I'm talking about 50 millimeter 1.2, 35 millimeter 1.4, and maybe an 85 or even a 24 1.4. So I don't know if you're Canon or Nikon, but all those companies make fast glass. And I'm telling you, that is a worthwhile investment. It'll change your world, man. All right, next question comes to us from Kristen. Sal, your wedding boot camp workshop, you suggested becoming an S Corp because of the benefits. But in my state, there's double taxation. What do you suggest I do? Kristen, I would talk to an accountant immediately, because an S Corp is a federal entity. And so you cannot be taxed doubly. The entire point of an S Corporation is so that you're not taxed twice. And so I don't know how to give you a better answer than that. It sounds like maybe you got bad information from someone. So I would connect with an accountant or an attorney, because you should not be taxed twice. That's the entire purpose of an S Corp. So get doing some research on that. This question comes to us from Spencer. What's some verbiage for over-the-phone conversation with potential clients to get them to that first meeting? In the past, they keep putting pressure on me for pricing to do it all over the phone. How do you get to that initial consultation? Well, Spencer, for me, 90% of the requests come in through email. But even if they come in over the phone, I try and walk them through as best as I can. I let them know where my prices start, and if we're within your budget, what we'd like to do is sit down with you face to face so we can walk you through it. Because if I give you all this data on the phone, it's going to create more questions than answers. Now, the phone conversations happen more with high school seniors than they do with weddings, let's say, or portraits or families. In that case, I don't bring them in for a consultation. I'm not going to bring a family in to walk them through everything. That doesn't make any sense. Instead, what I'm going to say to them is, prices start at X, and the average family spends about X in our studio. And so those two pieces of information, they shouldn't be going back down into, well, how much is a 5x7? If you start finding that clients, even after you've told them what the average family spends, that there's no minimum orders, are starting to drive down into how much is an 8x10 or 5x7, your radar has to start going off here, and you have to start realizing this might not be your client. But don't write them off just yet. Explain to them, a la carte, an 8x10 is 50 bucks, 75 bucks, whatever you're charging for it. But let them know, say, hey, keep in mind, this is just if you order one picture. We put packages and pricing together at the time of your sale, tied to our vendor specials that will significantly discount things off our a la carte price. So hopefully that helps you. All right. Last question from Ashley. I find my posing has become very stale, even with the most fun clients. Any advice on flow posing or any new ideas to keep it fresh? Yes, great question. Here's the thing. Look to fashion magazines. Look to Hollywood. Experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. It's very easy for us to get into that comfort zone and do what we know works. I do it. I'm guilty of it. But earlier on, in one of my articles, I was talking about that 20%. Take 20% of every session, just 10 minutes, and do something completely different. Just try it. If it fails, who cares? You've got your safety poses backing you up. So pick up magazines, fashion magazines, look to Hollywood, look to movie posters, and that's where I get my inspiration from, and I try and incorporate that into my business. Everyone, great questions. Keep submitting your questions, and good luck.